So what you just teach flight sims? My mom smirked, taking a sip of her drink. The 4th of July sun was brutal. 108 degrees, the kind of Arizona heat that made the air shimmer over the pavement. But it wasn't as brutal as the look she gave my old flight jacket. The one with my name tape still sewn on the chest. The one with patches she'd never bothered to ask about. I smiled and replied no. I fly for real. That was a lie. I didn't fly anymore. Not combat anyway. But after 12 years of my mother minimizing everything I'd ever done, I was tired of making it easy for her. Tired of shrinking myself to fit her narrative. Tired of being the daughter who couldn't quite measure up. She laughed. That high, bright laugh she used when she thought I was being ridiculous. Sure you do, honey. I didn't respond. I'd learned that lesson years ago. Arguing with Sharon Hayes never got you anywhere. It just gave her more ammunition. I'd pulled up to my parents' house in Scottsdale 20 minutes earlier, already regretting the drive. 8 months since my last visit. 8 months of peace. 8 months of not having to watch my mother perform the role of proud parent while systematically dismantling every accomplishment I'd ever achieved. But Dad had called 3 times in 2 days. Using that careful voice that meant Mom was mad I hadn't come around. The voice that said, "Please, Jordan, just this once." The voice that made me feel guilty for wanting to protect myself. So here I was, in 108-degree heat, about to spend 6 hours pretending everything was fine. The neighborhood hadn't changed. Same manicured lawns, same terracotta roofs, same HOA-approved beige and brown color schemes that made every house look like every other house. I'd grown up here, graduated from Desert Ridge High School, joined the Air Force Academy the day after graduation because I couldn't stand another minute in this place. And now I was back. Dad met me at the door before I could knock. Jim Hayes, 60 years old, graying at the temples, wearing his favorite Cardinals shirt. The relief on his face when he saw me was almost worth the trip. "Jordan," he said, pulling me into a hug. "Good to see you, kiddo." "Hey, Dad, your mother's in the backyard. Got some of her work friends over." He said it like a warning. "I know. You mentioned it on the phone. 3 times. He'd mentioned it 3 times, actually. Casual each time. Like he wasn't trying to prepare me. Like he didn't know exactly how this would go. Mom appeared in the hallway behind him, backlit by the Arizona sun, streaming through the kitchen windows. Sharon Hayes, 58 years old. Trim from her daily Pilates classes, and the diet she'd been on since I was in middle school. Hairstyled in that way that said I care, but not too much. Wearing white capris and a red, white and blue striped shirt that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "Jordan." She threw her arms around me in a hug that lasted exactly 2 seconds. The kind of hug you give someone when other people are watching. "You're finally here. Come on, everyone's waiting to meet you." Everyone. Great. "Mom, I just got here. Can I no time?" She linked her arm through mine like we were best friends. Like she hadn't spent the last 8 months calling my apartment and leaving messages that started with, "I don't know why you're avoiding your family," and ended with, "Your father misses you." Never, "I miss you." I followed them through the house. Same beige carpet I'd grown up with. Same family photos on the walls chronicling Brad's football career and my mother's charity work. There was one picture of me in my dress blues for my commissioning ceremony, tucked in the corner, behind a plant. The backyard was packed, 20 people, maybe more. I recognized a few neighbors. The rest were strangers holding beers and clustered around the covered patio. "Everyone, this is my daughter Jordan." Mom's voice carried across the yard. "She just got back from... What is it you do now, hon?" "Something with computers and planes." "I'm a flight instructor, Mom." She waved a hand. She's so modest. Used to be in the military, but now she has a nice desk job, teaching flight simulators. Much safer, you know. 3 people looked at me with polite interest. The rest had already turned back to their conversations. I recognized the look. The same look I'd gotten at family gatherings for years. Oh, the daughter, the one who didn't quite measure up. I grabbed a beer from the cooler and headed for the grill, where Dad had stationed himself. Safe territory? Don't let her get to you, he said quietly. I'm not. Jordan, I'm fine, Dad. Same as always. He flipped a burger. Said nothing. That was Dad's specialty. Saying nothing. I lasted maybe 20 minutes before Kelly showed up. Kelly Martinez was my best friend from my first deployment. 5'6", dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, even though she'd been out of the service for 2 years. Shoulders that broadcast Air Force even in civilian clothes. She spotted me from across the yard and her face lit up haze. You made it. Barely. She grabbed a beer from the cooler and clinked it against mine. How bad? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at about a 7, and we haven't even eaten yet. She snorted. What did she say this time? The usual. Flight simulators. Desk job. Nice and safe. Kelly, did you know I'm modest? She laughed. That's a new one. We stood there in comfortable silence. The kind you only get with people who've seen you at your worst and stuck around anyway. Kelly knew. She'd been there for most of it. 3 tours in Afghanistan. 73 missions together. She'd been my wingman on the worst night of my life. She'd been the only person besides my dad who'd shown up to my retirement ceremony. Mom had had to work that day. Something important at the office. She'd sent a card. How's civilian life treating you, I asked. Can't complain. Teaching yoga. Who knew all that ejection training would make me flexible? She grinned. You same. Training pilots. It's fine. Just fine. I shrugged. It's not the same. Of course it's not the same. You were one of the best combat pilots in the Air Force. Now you're teaching kids who think Top Gun is a documentary. That about sums it up. You miss it. Every day. She squeezed my shoulder. I know. A man approached us, mid-50s, fit in a way that said he still worked out every day. Cargo shorts and a Navy SEAL Trident t-shirt. Former military. You could always tell. Something in the way they carried themselves, the way they scanned a room without looking like they were scanning. Excuse me, ladies. Sharon said you both served. Yes, sir, Kelly said. Afghanistan 3 tours. Kelly's voice was steady, professional. Jordan and I overlapped on the second one. Mom materialized like she had radar for this exact conversation. She probably did. She had a sixth sense for moments when I might actually get credit for something. Oh, Jordan was there too. She laughed. That high, bright laugh that made my teeth hurt. Well, for a bit. She mostly just, what did you do on fly supplies around? Something like that, I said quietly. Kelly's jaw tightened. Her hand clenched around her beer bottle. I put a hand on her arm. Not worth it. The man looked between us. Curious now. What did you fly C-130? I said. It was true. I'd flown exactly 3 C-130 missions. Cargo. Supplies. The boring stuff Mom assumed was all I'd ever done. Kelly made a noise that might have been a laugh, or might have been her trying not to punch someone. The man introduced himself. Marcus Webb. Retired SEAL. Worked with Sharon at the defense contractor she'd started at last year. His handshake was firm. His eyes were sharp. He asked polite questions. How long did you serve? Where were you stationed? What was it like? The usual. I gave polite answers. 12 years. Multiple bases. Hot. He smiled. Diplomatic answer. It's the truth, sir. I'm sure it is. He glanced at my jacket again. That's quite a collection of patches you've got there. Then Mom called me over to the patio. That voice, the one that sounded sweet, but had an edge underneath. The one that said, come here right now and make me look good. Jordan, come meet my boss properly. Colonel Webb was standing by the grill talking to my dad about something. Probably baseball. Dad could talk baseball with anyone. He turned when I approached. Up close, I could see more. The weathering around his eyes, the scars on his hands, the calm that came from making life or death decisions in fractions of seconds. The kind of calm you couldn't fake. He'd been more than a SEAL. He'd been a good one. Colonel Webb. This is Jordan, my daughter. Mom's voice had that performative quality. The one she used when she was showing off. She used to fly planes. Now she teaches, what do you call it? Flight simulators. I train military pilots, ma'am. Civilian contractor. His eyes sharpened. The shift was subtle, but I caught it. Which branch did you serve, Captain? Before I could answer, Mom jumped in. Oh, she was Air Force. Did some time overseas, but nothing too exciting. She laughed. Nothing like what you did, Colonel. Jordan just, you know. Support roles. Right, Jordan. 12 years active duty, sir, I said. Mom was still talking. Mostly flying cargo, I think. Or was it passengers? I can never remember. Ma'am, Colonel Webb said gently. Perhaps we should let your daughter speak for herself. Mom's smile froze. It was the smile she used when someone had just insulted her, but she couldn't quite call them on it because they outranked her. Of course, she said. Go ahead, Jordan. I kept my voice level. Professional. 12 years Air Force. Multiple deployments. Currently training combat pilots for night operations. His gaze dropped to my flight jacket, the one I'd thrown on without thinking. Old habit. It still had my name tape, my rank, and about 15 patches from various squadrons and operations. Most people didn't know what they meant. They were just colorful patches. Unit insignias. Decorative. Colonel Webb knew exactly what they meant. Those are interesting patches you have there, he said quietly. Just units I was assigned to, sir. He nodded slowly, looked at my mother, looked back at me. I saw the calculation happening behind his eyes, the pieces falling into place. But he said nothing. Professional courtesy. He knew I was hiding something. He knew why. And he was letting me. Brad appeared with a fresh plate of burgers. My younger brother, 30 years old, sales manager at a tech company, 6'1", played football in high school, Mom's favorite by about 1,000 miles. The golden child, the one who'd done everything right, stayed close to home, got married, gave Mom grandkids, worked a normal job she could brag about to her friends. He gave me a quick nod. Sis. Brad. We stood there awkwardly. We'd never been close. Hard to be close to someone when you were constantly being compared and found wanting. When every conversation with your mother started with, why can't you be more like your brother? To be fair to Brad, it wasn't his fault. He'd never asked to be the favorite. Never asked Mom to hold me up as the cautionary tale. He'd actually tried to include me when we were kids. But somewhere around my 16th birthday, I'd stopped trying to compete. Stopped trying to fit into the box Mom had built for me, and Brad had moved on. Mom was telling Colonel Webb about her work. Again, she'd been doing that a lot since she started at the defense contractor, talking about her important job, the classified projects, the high-level meetings. We work on such important projects, she was saying. I can't talk about most of it, of course. Security clearances and all that. But I'm sure you understand, Colonel. Of course, he said politely. I've learned so much. It's such meaningful work, supporting our troops. She said it like she'd invented the concept. Kelly made a choking sound. I didn't look at her. Mom kept going. I always wanted to serve, you know, but I had children to raise. Someone had to stay home. She glanced at me. Not everyone can just run off and play soldier. Brad's face hardened. Even he had limits. Mom, he said quietly. What? She looked genuinely confused. I'm just saying not everyone can drop everything and... She was 22, Brad said. 22 when she joined. That's not dropping everything. That's called being an adult. Mom's mouth opened. Closed. I am very aware of how old my daughter was, Bradley. Then maybe you should be aware that she served for 12 years. That's not playing soldier. Mom's eyes narrowed. Are you going to lecture me about my own daughter? I'm just saying, well, don't. The party had gone quiet. People were pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. Dad materialized with a platter of hot dogs. Anyone hungry? His voice was too loud, too cheerful. Jordan Brad said quietly, pulling me aside. Why do you let her do that? Do what you know what. The comments, the dismissing, all of it. I looked at my brother, really looked at him. When had he started noticing? When had he started caring? It's not worth the fight, I said. Maybe it should be. And what would that accomplish, Brad? I'd tell her the truth. She'd find a way to minimize it, or twist it, or make it about how I never tell her anything. I've had this conversation in my head 1,000 times. I know how it ends. So you just let her. What else am I supposed to do? Tell her to stop. I laughed. It came out bitter. You think I haven't tried? You think the first 10 years I didn't correct her? Didn't try to explain she doesn't want to know Brad. She wants her version. The version where I failed. Where I couldn't cut it. Where I came crawling back to my safe little desk job because the real military was too hard. That's not. It is. And the crazy thing, I think she actually believes it. She's told the story so many times she's convinced herself it's true. Brad looked like he wanted to argue, but he'd been there. He'd heard the stories, the casual lies Mom told at family gatherings, the way she rewrote history. How long has it been like this? He asked. Since I joined, I said. Maybe before. I don't know. I stopped keeping track. I'm sorry. Not your fault. Still, we stood there. The first real conversation we'd had in years. And all it took was Mom being Mom. Guests were asking questions about what it's like to fly. I tried to answer. Tried to be polite. Mom kept inserting herself. Kept talking over me. Kept correcting details she knew nothing about. Kelly was vibrating with suppressed rage. Hayes, if you don't let me say something, I'm going to lose it. Don't. She just told someone you flew cargo planes. I did fly cargo planes. 3 times. You know what I mean. Kelly, please. I just want to get through today. Why? What's the point? Why do you keep coming back here when she treats you like this? Because Dad asked, I said quietly. And because if I don't, she wins. She gets to tell everyone I'm too proud to visit. Too busy with my important job. And everyone will believe her. I know what it is. I swear to God, Hayes, if she says flight simulator one more time, don't. How do you stand it? Practice. Someone mentioned fireworks later. I flinched before I could stop it. Small, barely noticeable, but Kelly saw. She always saw. You okay, fine? Jordan. I'm fine. Dad was watching me from the grill. That look again. The one that said I'm sorry, but also said I'm not going to do anything about it. 36 years married to Mom. He'd perfected that look. By 4 o'clock I was ready to leave. Make an excuse. Say I had work tomorrow. Anything. Then everything changed. I was by the drinks table when someone asked, "So what do you fly now?" Before I could answer, Mom's voice cut across the yard. Louder than necessary. She'd had 3 drinks. She doesn't fly. She teaches flight simulators. It's basically a desk job. I train pilots. Mom, real pilots. For combat. Sure you do, honey. She laughed. That drunk laugh that meant she thought she was being funny. That meant she'd had just enough to say the quiet part loud. Kelly had had enough. She's being modest, Kelly said. Want to know her call sign? Mom blinked. Her what, her call sign? Every combat pilot has one. She looked at me. Want to tell them, or should I? I stayed silent. Night Warden, Kelly said. Colonel Webb, who'd been talking to my dad, went completely still. That's cute, Mom said. Like a video game name. Colonel Webb set down his beer. Very carefully. The conversation around us died. His voice when he spoke had dropped into that register. Military people recognize instantly. Formal, respectful, deadly serious. Night warden, that night warden. The backyard had gone quiet. Mum's smile faltered. Colonel Webb. You don't have to, ma'am, he said, not looking at her. His eyes were on me. With respect, your daughter isn't exaggerating. I stood there, trapped, exposed, trying to figure out how to make this stop. Captain Hayes, he said, is that the jacket you wore? Yes, sir. May I, sir? It's not humour me, Captain. I couldn't refuse, not when he asked like that. I walked over. Let him examine the patches on my sleeve, my chest, my back. He read them quietly. Each one. The squadron patches, the combat patches, the mission patches that weren't supposed to be publicly acknowledged. Other guests were drifting closer now, curious. How many combat missions, Captain 87, sir? Night operations, 43, sir. He looked at my mom, looked back at me. I saw the moment understanding hit. You flew the Kandahar corridor. Yes, sir. The guests didn't understand. Dad did. I saw his face change. Brad was reading something on his phone. Kelly was standing behind me, arms crossed, satisfaction radiating off her. Mom looked confused, then nervous, then scared. Should we tell them about the time you got shot down? Kelly said. Or should that wait for dessert? The world tilted. Shot down, Mom whispered. I met her eyes, said nothing. I'd been silent for 34 years. What was one more moment? The silence lasted 3 seconds, maybe 4. Long enough for the fireworks in someone's backyard down the street to boom twice. Long enough for the ice in someone's drink to shift and clink. Long enough for me to watch my mother's face cycle through confusion, shock, and something that might have been fear. Long enough for me to realize there was no going back. Shot down, she whispered. The words hung in the air between us. 2 words that changed everything. 2 words that meant I couldn't hide anymore. Couldn't pretend. Couldn't keep protecting her from the truth. I met her eyes. Said nothing. 34 years of silence. What was one more moment? But Kelly was done being silent. Kelly had been done for years. She'd watched me shrink myself, watched me hide, watched me let my mother minimize 12 years of service into nothing more than a failed experiment. A phase. A desk job. She was done watching. Afghanistan, Kelly said, her voice carried across the backyard. 2022. February. Night mission over the Kandahar corridor. I closed my eyes, felt the heat of that night, heard the warning alarm, saw the flash. Kelly kept talking. Sam hit. Surface-to-air missile. Engine fire. Jordan managed a controlled crash in hostile territory. That's not, Mom started. Colonel Webb held up a hand. Ma'am, let her finish. The backyard had gone completely quiet. 20 people holding beers and paper plates frozen. Someone's kid had stopped running. Even the dog next door had stopped barking. Kelly looked at me, asked permission with her eyes. I nodded. Just once. Jordan's squadron was pinned down, Kelly said. Enemy fire from 3 directions. She was burning fuel, leaking hydraulic fluid, engine temperature in the red. Any sane person would have ejected and run. I didn't run. She stayed on station, Kelly continued. Provided cover fire for 23 minutes until rescue arrived. 23 minutes with a plane that should have exploded. She saved 11 lives that night. Mom's drink was shaking in her hand. Jordan. I opened my eyes. Yes, ma'am. Why didn't you tell me? The question hung there. Why didn't I tell her? Why didn't I share the worst night of my life? Why didn't I explain the nightmares, the guilt? The way I still heard the warning alarm every time a car backfired. I tried to tell you a lot of things, Mom. You just never wanted to hear them. The truth of it hit me as I said it. How many times had I started a sentence? How many times had I begun to explain a mission, a deployment, a moment of fear or triumph or loss? How many times had I watched her face close off, watched her change the subject, watched her find an excuse to walk away? She hadn't wanted to know, because knowing would have meant acknowledging that I was good at something, that I'd succeeded at something, that I'd become someone she couldn't diminish or control or fit into the neat little box she'd built for me. Knowing would have meant seeing me, really seeing me, and that terrified her more than any enemy fire had ever terrified me. That's not fair, isn't it? I set down my beer, very carefully, the way Colonel Webb had set down his. The way you learn to move in the military. Controlled, precise. Every gesture meaning something. I told you I was deploying to Afghanistan. You said I was exaggerating. I told you I flew combat missions. You told people I flew cargo. I invited you to my promotion ceremony. You had a hair appointment. David appeared from somewhere, carrying something. A manila folder, worn at the edges. Jim, Mom said. Not now. No, Dad said quietly. Now. He opened the folder. Inside were newspaper clippings, printed articles, official announcements. He'd organized them by date. 12 years of my career. Documented. Saved. Hidden in the garage behind his workbench. Brad took the folder. Started reading. His face changed. Captain Jordan Hayes, awarded Distinguished Flying Cross for extraordinary heroism. Brad read aloud. For meritorious achievement while participating in aerial flight. Captain Hayes' outstanding courage under fire and unwavering devotion to duty reflect great credit upon herself and the United States Air Force. He looked up at Mom. This was in the Scottsdale Tribune. September 16th, 2024. That was the day after my retirement ceremony. The ceremony Mom had missed because she had to work. You told me it wasn't a big deal, Brad said to Mom. You said Jordan just wanted attention. I never said you did. Brad's voice was hard. Thanksgiving, you said Jordan was dramatic about her military service, that she was making it sound more important than it was. I don't remember, Brad said. Because I believed you. The guests were leaving, quietly, quickly, mumbling excuses. Nice party, getting late. Thanks for having us. Within 5 minutes, the backyard was half empty. Colonel Webb hadn't moved. He stood by the grill, arms crossed, watching everything with that military calm. Mom was trying to salvage it. Doing what she always did. Spinning the narrative. Well, she said, her voice too bright. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Jordan, honey, you know I'm proud of you. Don't. The word came out flat. Hard. I'd never used that tone with my mother before. Don't, I repeated. Don't tell me you're proud. Don't tell me there's been a misunderstanding. Don't tell me you didn't know. You chose not to know. There's a difference. Jordan, that's not... I tried to tell you, I said. Every time I came home on leave. Every time you asked what I did, and I started to explain, and you changed the subject. Every time you introduced me to your friends as your daughter, who used to be in the military, but now has a nice safe desk job. Every time you made me smaller so you could feel bigger. Mom's face went white, then red. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in my life, I'm being completely honest with you. And you can't stand it. Kelly was watching me. So was Dad. So was Brad. So was Colonel Webb. How dare you, Mom said. After everything I've done for you. What have you done for me? I heard my voice rising. Couldn't stop it. You missed my high school graduation because you were mad I chose the academy instead of state. You didn't come to my commissioning because you said it was too far. You skipped my promotion ceremonies because they conflicted with your Pilates schedule. You didn't show up to my retirement because you had to work. And the whole time you told everyone I was a failure. I never said you were a failure. You didn't have to. You You just had to keep saying I flew cargo planes, that I had a desk job, that I taught flight simulators. You just had to make sure everyone knew I wasn't special. Sharon David said quietly. He was still holding the folder, still standing there with 12 years of proof. She's right. Mom turned on him. You're taking her side. There are no sides. There's just the truth. The truth, Mom said, is that my daughter is standing here attacking me in front of everyone. The truth is that you've been lying about Jordan for years, Brad said. And I never saw it. He looked at me. I'm sorry. Not your fault, I said. It is, though. He held up the folder. Dad's been keeping these in the garage. All of them. And I never asked why. I never asked what you actually did. I just believed her. Kelly had stayed quiet during all of this. Now she moved, walked right up to my mother, stood about 2 feet away. Ma'am, Kelly said, her voice deadly calm. Do you know why Jordan really retired? Mom blinked. Because she'd had enough. She said so. Did she tell you what she'd had enough of the military? The deployments. All of it. No, Kelly said. She had enough of watching people die. She had enough of flying into hostile territory every night wondering if she'd make it back. She had enough of the nightmares, the flashbacks, the guilt. She gave 12 years to her country. She earned medals most pilots will never touch. And she came home to a mother who treated her service like a failed hobby. That's not Mom started. It is David said. And you know, it is Sharon. Mom looked around, at the remaining guests, at her husband, at her son, at her daughter, at Kelly, who was looking at her like she was seeing something disgusting. You're all ganging up on me, Mom said. Her voice had gone small. Wounded. The victim card. I knew that card. I'd seen it my whole life. No one's ganging up on you, I said. We're just finally telling the truth. Colonel Webb chose that moment to speak. Ma'am, he said to my mother, could I have a word with Captain Hayes privately? Mom looked like she wanted to say no. But you don't say no to a colonel. Even retired ones. Of course, she said stiffly. Colonel Webb gestured toward the front yard. Captain, I followed him, aware of everyone watching, aware of Kelly giving me an encouraging nod, aware of Mom's eyes burning into my back. The front yard was cooler, quieter. The sun was starting to set, orange and pink over the mountains. Captain Hayes, Colonel Webb said, I owe you an apology. Sir, for the past 6 months your mother has been telling me about her daughter, the one who tried the military but couldn't quite make it work, the one who now has a nice desk job teaching flight simulators. He looked at me. I never knew that daughter was night warden. I said nothing. I've been trying to recruit you for 6 months, he continued. Submitted the request forms 3 months ago. Been waiting for clearance to approach you. I had no idea you were Sharon's daughter. He pulled out his phone, showed me a document. Official DOD letterhead. Recruitment request. My name, my rank, my call sign. Night operations training program, he said. Top secret classification. We're building a new squadron. Elite night operations. I need a lead instructor. Someone who's been there. Someone who knows what it's like when everything goes to hell at midnight over enemy territory. He looked at me. I need you. I stared at the phone, at my name on that form, at the date, 3 months ago, right around when Mom had started bragging about her important job at the defense contractor. The irony was almost funny. Almost. What's the catch, I asked. He smiled. Small. Knowing. The catch is that this job comes with recognition. Public recognition. Secretary of Defense level. Media coverage. Award ceremony at Nellis. The Air Force wants to show off the program, and that means showing off the instructors. So my mother would know. Everyone would know. No more hiding. No more letting people think you teach computers or fly cargo. You'd be Captain Jordan Hayes, Night Warden, Distinguished Flying Cross recipient, lead instructor for the most advanced night operations program in the Air Force. I looked back at the house. Through the living room window, I could see Mom talking intensely to Dad. Her hands were moving. She was probably still trying to spin the narrative, still trying to make this about how everyone was being mean to her. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "You have a week," Colonel Webb said. He handed me a card. "My contact information. The job's yours if you want it. But I need to know you're ready, because once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Your mother will know. Your family will know. Everyone will know." "I know. Can you handle that?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I've spent 34 years protecting her from the truth. I'm not sure I know how to stop." He nodded, looked back at the house, then back at me. "Captain Hayes, in my experience, the truth doesn't hurt people. Lies do, and you've been living in your mother's lie for a very long time. I've been complicit in it. Maybe. Or maybe you've been surviving it. There's a difference." He paused. "Night Warden was never meant to hide." "I know," I said quietly. "So what are you going to do?" I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Not yet. Inside, Brad had come out of the garage. He was carrying more boxes, more files, more evidence of the daughter Mom had chosen not to see. Kelly was leaning against my truck, waiting. She'd wait all night if I needed her to. Dad was standing in the kitchen doorway. Just standing, watching. That look on his face. The one that said, "I'm sorry, and I love you, and I wish I'd been braver." And Mom. Mom was alone in the living room now. Everyone had left. Dad had walked away. Brad had walked away. She was alone with the truth she'd spent years denying. I thought about the pilots I could train, the lives I could save, the skills I could pass on. I thought about standing in front of a room full of young officers and teaching them what I'd learned in fire and fear and blood. I thought about my mother watching on the news, seeing the medals, hearing my service record read aloud, understanding finally what she'd spent 34 years minimizing. Would it feel like revenge? Or would it feel like freedom? Colonel Webb was watching me, patient. He'd been in combat. He knew how to wait. I looked back at the house one more time, at my mother through the window. 34 years of making myself small. 34 years of hiding so she didn't have to feel inadequate. 34 years of silence. I thought of the warning alarm, the fire, the squadron pinned down, the choice to stay when any sane person would have run. I'd never run from a fight, not when lives were on the line. Maybe it was time to stop running from the truth. "I'm going to let her see who I really am," I said, "even if it kills me." Colonel Webb smiled. "Call me when you're ready, Captain." He walked to his car, drove away, left me standing in my parents' driveway as the sun set over Scottsdale and the fireworks started going off in neighboring yards. Kelly came over. "You okay?" "No," I said. "But I will be. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to take the job." She grinned. "About damn time." Brad came out with another box. "Set it down on the porch. There's more in the garage. Dad's been saving everything." "I know. Why didn't he ever show you?" "Because Mom would have found out, and then she would have made him get rid of them. This way at least someone remembered." Brad looked at the box, at the house, at me. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You weren't supposed to. She's your mom too. I didn't want to make you choose." "I'm choosing now," he said. "If that counts for anything." "It does." We stood there, brother and sister, maybe for the first time actually seeing each other. Inside, Dad was talking to Mom. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see his face. Calm, firm. For the first time in 36 years of marriage, he was standing his ground. Kelly handed me a beer. "To the truth?" "To the truth," I said. We clinked bottles. The fireworks kept going off. Red and blue and white exploding over the desert. Independence Day. Maybe that's what this was. My own declaration of independence. From the lie. From the silence. from the need to make myself small so someone else could feel big. I pulled out Colonel Webb's card, looked at it, felt the weight of the decision. Night Warden was never meant to hide. He was right about that. I'd been given that call sign for a reason. Because I saw things in the dark that others couldn't. Because I kept watch when everyone else was sleeping. Because I'd learned to navigate by stars when all the instruments failed. Maybe it was time to stop hiding in the dark. Time to step into the light. Let everyone see the scars and the medals and the truth of who I'd become in 12 years of fire and fear and flying. Even if my mother never understood. Even if she never approved. Even if she spent the rest of her life telling people I was exaggerating. At least I'd know the truth. And that would be enough. Kelly was watching me. You sure about this? No, I said. But I'm doing it anyway. That's my girl, she said. Inside, Mom was crying. Dad was holding her. Brad was carrying boxes to his car, taking them home, making sure they didn't disappear. My family was breaking apart. Or maybe it was finally breaking open. Maybe this was what had needed to happen all along. The lies couldn't hold forever. Secrets had weight. Eventually they got too heavy to carry. I pulled out my phone, looked at Colonel Webb's number. My thumb hovered over the call button. But I didn't press it. Not yet. Not tonight. Tonight was for standing in my parents' driveway with my best friend. For watching the fireworks. For feeling something I hadn't felt in 34 years. Something dangerous and terrifying and absolutely necessary. Hope. Hope that maybe I could stop hiding. Stop pretending to be smaller than I was. Stop apologizing for the space I took up in the world. Stop letting my mother's need to feel superior dictate how I saw myself. Hope that maybe I could be Night Warden again. Not just in memory. Not just in nightmares. Not just in the dark corners of my mind, where I replayed every mission, every decision, every moment I'd chosen to stay, when anyone sane would have run. But in the light of day, standing in front of a room full of young pilots with their whole lives ahead of them, teaching them what I'd learned, what I'd survived, what had cost me blood and fear and sleepless nights, what had made me who I was. The fireworks were getting louder, closer, the whole neighborhood lighting up. Kelly raised her beer. To Captain Jordan Hayes. I raised mine. To the truth. We drank. And somewhere in the house behind us, my mother was finally learning who her daughter really was, whether she wanted to know or not. I made the call on Monday morning, 1 week after the 4th of July. 1 week after my mother learned who I really was. And I learned that maybe I didn't need her to know. But I made the call anyway. Colonel Webb answered on the second ring. Captain Hayes. Yes, sir. I'm ready. There was a pause. Not surprise. He'd known I'd call. Just the weight of what that meant settling between us. When he asked, Whenever you need me, sir. The ceremony's in 2 weeks. July 25th. Nellis Air Force Base. Public event. Secretary of Defense will be there. Press. Your family will be invited. My family. The word felt strange. Who was my family now? Dad, definitely. Brad, maybe. Kelly, absolutely. Mom. I understood what he wasn't saying. My mother would see it. On the news, if nowhere else. Would see me standing on a stage in my dress blues, would see the medals, would see her co-workers from the defense contractor watching me accept an honor she'd spent years pretending I didn't deserve, would see the truth she'd spent 34 years denying. I'll be there, I said. Kelly was in my kitchen making coffee. She'd stayed over, hadn't asked if I wanted company, just showed up with a 6-pack and her overnight bag, and said nothing while I paced my apartment for 3 days trying to decide something I'd already decided. That's what best friends did. They showed up. They stayed. They made coffee while you changed your life. Well, she said when I hung up. 2 weeks, Nellis. She nodded. Poured 2 cups. Handed me one. You scared? Terrified. Good. Being terrified means it matters. We sat at my kitchen table. My apartment was small, 1 bedroom, minimalist in that way that military people learned. Few possessions, nothing extra. Everything had a place and a purpose. I'd been living here for 2 years, since I'd retired and taken the civilian contractor job. It still didn't feel like home. I wasn't sure anywhere felt like home anymore. Your dad called yesterday, Kelly said, while you were in the shower. Yeah. Wanted to know if you were okay. I told him you were thinking. What did he say? That thinking was good, that he'd support whatever you decided. Kelly paused. He also said your mom hasn't called. I know. Are you waiting for her to... No. Maybe. I don't know. I sipped my coffee. It doesn't matter. She made her choice. And you're making yours. Yeah. The days before the ceremony blurred. I pulled out my dress blues, inspected every seam, every button, every medal. The Air Force had specific regulations for everything. Ribbon placement, medal alignment, trouser crease. I'd learned all of it at the academy. Muscle memory now. Kelly helped. She knew the regulations as well as I did. Better, maybe. She'd always been more particular about uniform appearance. Said it was about respect. For the uniform. For the service. For yourself. Your flight cross is crooked, she said. By a millimeter, I said. Still crooked. I adjusted it. She checked. Nodded approval. Dad showed up the night before the ceremony. Knocked on my door at 7 p.m. I wasn't expecting him. He was carrying something. A garment bag. Your mother didn't want me to give you this, he said. But it's yours. Inside was my old flight jacket. The one I'd worn to the 4th of July BBQ. The one with all the patches. The one that had started everything. It had been professionally cleaned. Every patch still intact. Even the ones that were half torn. Even the ones stained with things I didn't want to remember. Dad, I said. My voice caught. I had it cleaned. Thought you might want to wear it tomorrow. Or maybe just have it as yours. Not hiding in your closet. Not something you're ashamed of. I'm not ashamed, I said quietly. I know. But you've been acting like you are. For her. For me. For everyone except yourself. He set the jacket on my couch. I should have told you to stop. Should have stood up to her. Should have... You're here now, I said. That's what matters. He looked at me. Really looked at me. The way he hadn't in years. Maybe the way he'd been afraid to because seeing me meant acknowledging what Mom was doing. And he hadn't been ready to acknowledge that. You look like your grandmother, he said suddenly. My mother. She was Air Force too. Did I ever tell you that number 1968 to 72? Vietnam. Didn't fly. Worked logistics. But she loved it. Loved the service. The purpose. Came home and never talked about it because people didn't want to hear about women in Vietnam. She understood what it was like. To do something important and have everyone act like it didn't matter. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because your mother didn't like it when I mentioned her. Said I was comparing you, making her feel inadequate. So I stopped. He looked at the flight jacket, at the patches, at the evidence of who I was and what I'd done. I'm sorry, he said. Don't be. You're here now, and you're doing this. The ceremony, even though she'll see it, even though it'll hurt her. Does that make me a bad daughter? He smiled, sad and proud at the same time. Makes you an honest one. We stood there, father and daughter, finally on the same side. Has she called you? I asked. Every day. Asking if I've talked to you. Asking if you're really doing this. Asking if I can stop you. And I told her you're 34 years old. You don't need my permission. And even if you did, I'd give it. Kelly had been in the kitchen during this, giving us space. Now she came out with 3 beers. To telling the truth, she said. To telling the truth, Dad echoed. We clinked bottles. drank, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Nellis Air Force Base was massive. Fighter jets on display, hangars the size of warehouses, the kind of place that reminded you what the military actually was. Power, precision, purpose. The ceremony was being held outdoors, stage erected, chairs arranged, press area cordoned off. I'd been to 100 military ceremonies, change of command, retirements, medal presentations. They all followed the same pattern: formal, traditional, designed to honor service while maintaining military bearing. But this one was different. This one was mine. Kelly was in her dress uniform. She'd come out of retirement for this. Pinned on her ribbons and medals, and stood next to me like we were deploying again. Like we were a team. Like we'd always been. "You clean up nice, Martinez," I said. "Right back at you, Hayes." Brad was there with his wife and kids. His daughters, 7 and 5. They'd never really met Aunt Jordan. I'd been the mysterious relative who sent birthday cards but never visited. Now they were staring at me like I was some kind of superhero. "Are you really a pilot?" the older one asked. "I was," I said. "Now I teach pilots." "That's so cool." "Yeah," I thought. It actually is. Dad was in his best suit, the one he wore to weddings and funerals. He stood next to Brad, both of them watching me with something like pride. There was one empty chair in the family section, reserved, name card Sharon Hayes. She wasn't there. I told myself it didn't matter. Told myself I'd accepted this. Told myself I was doing this for me, not for her approval. But there was still that small part. The part that remembered being 5 years old and wanting Mom to watch me on the playground. The part that remembered being 16 and wanting her to come to my soccer games. The part that had never quite stopped hoping she'd show up. She didn't. Colonel Webb found me backstage. "You ready, Captain?" "As ready as I'll ever be, sir." He looked at the empty chair, then back at me. "This isn't about her." "I know, sir. Is that true?" "No, sir, but I'm doing it anyway." He smiled. "That's the spirit." The ceremony started at 10:30. Secretary of Defense spoke first. Standard speech about service and sacrifice and the next generation of warriors. I stood at attention, listened, didn't hear most of it. Then Colonel Webb took the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "I'm here to introduce you to the Night Warden program." He explained it. The need for elite night operations training, the dangers of low visibility combat, the skills required to fly when you couldn't see beyond your instruments, when the moon was dark and the ground was darker, and the only thing keeping you alive was training and instinct, and the hope that you'd prepared enough. "This program will save lives," he said, "not by keeping our pilots out of danger, but by teaching them how to survive it, how to navigate it, how to come home." He paused, looked at me. "I'd like to introduce your lead instructor." This was it, the moment I'd been dreading and wanting in equal measure. "Captain Jordan Hayes." Colonel Webb said, "Call sign Night Warden." I walked onto the stage. Cameras flashed, press scribbling notes. I'd never liked attention, had spent my career trying to avoid it. But this was different. This was earned. "Captain Hayes served 12 years on active duty," Colonel Webb continued. 4 deployments, 87 combat missions, 43 of those at night, over hostile territory, in conditions most pilots wouldn't attempt. He kept talking, listing things I'd done, things I'd survived, things I'd tried to forget. In February of 2022, he said Captain Hayes was providing air support for a ground operation in Afghanistan. Her aircraft was hit by a surface-to-air missile. Most pilots would have ejected, abandoned the plane, saved themselves. The crowd was silent. Captain Hayes had a squadron pinned down below her. 11 lives. She made a controlled crash landing in hostile territory. Then, with a burning engine and leaking fuel, she stayed on station for 23 minutes, providing cover fire until rescue arrived. He paused. She saved 11 lives that night and nearly lost her own doing it. I I stood there, rigid, military bearing, but inside I was that terrified pilot again, hearing the warning alarms, smelling the smoke, feeling the heat. For this action, Colonel Webb said, Captain Hayes was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for extraordinary heroism, for unwavering devotion to duty, for exemplifying the very best of the United States Air Force. The applause started. I didn't move, couldn't move. Now, Captain Hayes will teach the next generation of night operations pilots, will pass on the skills she learned in fire and fear and blood, will save countless lives by preparing young officers for the darkness they'll face. He turned to me. Captain Hayes. I saluted. He returned it, then shook my hand. The cameras were everywhere, press shouting questions, but all I could see was the front row. Kelly saluting, Dad with tears streaming down his face, Brad holding up his phone taking pictures, and that empty chair. Then a car pulled up, late, a silver sedan I recognized. Mom got out. She stood at the back of the crowd, too late to sit, too late to be included, just standing there, watching. Our eyes met across the assembled crowd, across the press and the military personnel and the families, and the future I was building without her. I didn't wave, didn't smile, just looked at her, let her see me, really see me, for maybe the first time in 34 years. Then I turned back to accept congratulations from the Secretary of Defense, because this wasn't about her. It had never been about her. After the ceremony, there was a reception, formal, military, people shaking my hand, thanking me for my service, asking about the training program. I answered questions, maintained composure, played the role expected of me. Dad found me, pulled me into a hug, didn't say anything, didn't need to. Brad was next. His daughters had a newspaper article. Someone had printed it early. The headline, Night Warden returns, elite pilot trains. Next generation. Can we have your autograph? The older one asked. I signed it. Felt strange, surreal. Kelly just stood next to me. My wingman, always. Colonel Webb approached. Sharon's here. I know, sir. Want me to handle it? No, sir. I'll talk to her. You sure, no, sir? But I'm doing it anyway. He smiled. You say that a lot. It's kept me alive so far, sir. I found Mom by the parking lot, standing alone, looking lost. She'd dressed up. Nice dress. Hair done. Makeup. Like this was a social event. Like this was something to celebrate. But her eyes told a different story. Jordan, she said. That was... You looked... Professional, I supplied. Competent, like someone who knew what they were doing. I didn't mean... What did you mean, Mom? She looked around. At the press packing up. At the officers in uniform. At her co-workers from the defense contractor who'd been invited and who'd watched the whole thing. Everyone knows now, she said quietly. Yes, they know I... She couldn't finish. They know you lied, I said. They know you've been telling people I fly cargo planes and teach flight simulators. They know you minimized 12 years of combat service. They know you missed every ceremony, every promotion, every award. They know. That's not fair, she said. You never told me I tried to tell you everything, Mom. You chose not to listen. I'm your mother. Then act like it. Or let me go. The words echoed. Dad had said them to her at the BBQ. Now I was saying them, giving her a choice. Probably for the last time. Jordan, please, I don't need you to be proud of me, I said. I'm proud of me. I don't need you to understand what I did. The people who matter understand. I don't need your approval. I don't need your permission. I don't need you. The words hurt to say, but they were true. What do you need? She asked, her voice small. Nothing, I said. Not anymore. I walked away, left her standing in the parking lot, went back to my future. 3 months later, I stood on the tarmac at Nellis, watching a training flight return. 6 planes, young pilots, fresh from the academy, scared and eager and alive. Tomorrow, I teach them about night operations, about trusting instruments when you couldn't trust your eyes, about the fear and how to fly through it, about staying when every instinct screamed run. My phone buzzed. Text from Brad. Photo of his kids. They were holding the newspaper article, framed now, the headline still visible. Below that, Aunt Jordan is famous. I smiled, sent back a thumbs up. Another text. Dad, proud of you, kiddo. I replied. Love you too. No message from Mom. There probably never would be. We hadn't spoken since the ceremony. She'd tried calling twice. I hadn't answered. Dad said she was upset, hurt. Couldn't understand why I was being so cruel. I wasn't being cruel. I was being honest. There's a difference. The planes landed. Perfect formation. I checked my watch. I had a briefing in 20 minutes. Flight simulator training after that. Evening lecture on night navigation. This was my life now. Teaching, training, passing on knowledge bought with fear and fire, and 12 years of flying into darkness. It was good work, important work, work that mattered. Kelly texted. Drinks this weekend, I replied always. She'd moved to Nevada, got a job at Nellis. Teaching too. Different program. But we had lunch most days. Talked about missions we'd flown and students we were training and the lives we were building. The life I'd built without my mother's approval. Without her presence. Without her voice in my head telling me I wasn't enough. It wasn't the life I'd imagined. I thought reconciliation was possible. Thought my mother would see me and understand and apologize, and we'd move forward. That hadn't happened. Probably never would. But I was okay. Learning to be okay. Learning that some people will never see you, never acknowledge you, never give you what you need, and you can still build a life worth living. The sun set over the Nevada desert. I stood on the tarmac, watching the last light fade, thinking about night missions, about flying in darkness, about the fear and the trust, and the moment you realize you're going to make it. Tomorrow, more pilots to train, more lives to protect, more truth to tell. Night Warden was never meant to hide, and I was done hiding.